What is going on, people? Welcome back to WhiteWhaleFishing. Hey, thanks for joining me for another Tackle Tuesday. Hi, my name's Greg, and I have a problem buying baits when I can't fish. In all seriousness, here in central Indiana, we get hard water, and between Tackle Friday, subscription boxes, and fishing tackle expos, you guys have heard it before, I've kind of picked up a lot of baits, but ultimately what I'm just trying to do is trying to test out other brands of baits that I like to throw and get ready for this new year. So today we're really focused on blade baits, and for me a blade bait could be an underspin, a chatterbait, or spinnerbait. Today we're going to be talking about chatterbaits or bladed jigs or bladed swim jigs or whatever you want to call it, and spinnerbaits. So let's get started. Chatterbaits is something that I started throwing 2 years ago. I know they've been around for a while, and they are by far a huge staple in my tackle box as far as confidence baits for me. And right now, for me, is the time of year when that bladed jig bite is almost at its peak. As soon as those water temps are 50, mid-50s, the bladed jig bite's going to be on fire here, and I'm looking forward to it. So some new baits that I've picked up this year. Let's talk about 3 from ZMan. Original Chatterbait, and original Chatterbait's not my go-to chatterbait, but I was walking through Dick's and I saw this color and I absolutely had to have it. I think it's called Bad Shad Green or Bad Shad Gold, or maybe just Bad Shad. It's awesome. It's a sick color. I picked it up to throw in the winter because I was trying to imitate crappie. I'd heard that bass eat crappie heavily, especially in the winter. No bites, but it is what it is. Ultimately, it's a great clear water color, and I think it's going to do a really good job of imitating bait fish. I don't throw a ton of bait fish imitating chatterbaits here in my area, because in my area we don't have a ton of lakes that have bait fish like shad. Most of the forage up here, as far as the ponds that I fish, are going to be bluegill. I've thrown white chatterbaits, I've gotten bites on white chatterbaits, so this is something that's going to be getting a workout in local waters and in new waters this year. But yeah, that's a pretty sexy looking color. Sticking with Z-Man, the talk of the town right now is fire craw, and I don't have a fire craw jackhammer. I wasn't even going to try and get one, but I did pick this up, funny enough, like a month or 2 ago, because I wanted to start throwing some red baits in the spring. So this is a Chatterbait Elite, and it's just in a red-black color. It's a red-black skirt. It's got a Berkeley power bait pit boss on there in this red, brown, black type color, and that thing just looks awesome. It looks like it's going to get bit, especially in some muddy water when bass are keying in to find that sound and that vibration that they feel. And my go-to chatterbait for fishing ponds in this area and just in general is a Project Z. And the reason it's my go-to is simply because of the weed guard. You know, there's nothing worse than rolling a chatterbait over a stump and getting hung up, especially if you're on the bank. And this guy has prevented me from getting hung up so many times. Don't get me wrong, I've lost them, just not nearly as frequent as with other chatterbaits. A couple of the things I really like about the Project Z and why it's my go-to over the jackhammer. Number one is cost. I think they're about $10. Whatever number we're on, it vibrates way faster than the other chatterbaits. I mean, as soon as it hits the water, as soon as you begin to turn that handle, it's knocking. I really like the skirt design on it, the way that skirt comes cut short and it's flared out, so it's, you know, it's doing its thing under the water. But I recently saw a video on Wired to Fish, and they filmed Project Z underwater, and this Project Z definitely has a very unique sound that weed guard almost mutes the sound a little bit. So if you're in an area, if you're in a lake and a lot of people are throwing chatterbaits and you want to throw something different, I would definitely give this guy a shot. I love pairing it up with a Berkley Pit Boss Rig Vertical. I think it does a great job of imitating bluegill. And the last chatterbait we're going to talk about today is the Strike King Thunder Cricket. I got this in the Strike King Takeover box. It's in straight up green pumpkin. I like throwing a D-bomb on my chatterbaits because these are super thin and they vibrate super fast. Here's my take on Thunder Crickets versus Z-Man. And I thought about this, and I started this opinion when I watched Alex Rudd kind of do a comparison. And his take was that the Thunder Cricket vibrates faster and quicker during the retrieve than a jackhammer. The jackhammer thumps harder, right? So I thought to myself, well, shad probably have a faster vibration than bluegill, so a Thunder Cricket would probably do a good job to imitate a shad, where a jackhammer may do a better job of imitating a bluegill. Damn you, Strike King, for not sending me a shad-colored Thunder Cricket. But it is what it is. I'm still going to throw this in waters and try and imitate bluegill. My opinion may be completely out of left field and maybe completely wrong. Who knows? I don't know. But those are my chatterbaits that I've got for this year. Looking forward to seeing what they catch bass on. Now let's jump into spinnerbaits. All right, talking about spinnerbaits. Growing up in South Florida, a spinnerbait was probably tied on my rod 50% of the time, and it was a huge confidence bait for me. Fast forward 15 years, you try and apply what you know about Florida waters up here, and blank, 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 blank. So developing confidence in a spinnerbait was something that was super important to me because I'm that kind of fisherman. I'm a cast and wind, cover water type of guy. And I started throwing them last year. I actually caught my biggest bass of 2019 on a spinnerbait in the fall. So I said to myself, one of my goals for this year is going to be find some spinnerbaits that work, specifically blade combinations and colors for the waters that I fish. Now, the majority of the waters that I fish up here are pretty clear. I do have some muddy areas, so we're going to be kind of covering the gambit with regards to color. Z-Man's making a really cool spinnerbait these days. I forget the name of it, but it's the only spinnerbait they're making. And I think the most important thing about this spinnerbait is that little groove that's in the head. That's going to allow you to burn this spinnerbait pretty quick. This is definitely a clear water bait, considering the color on that skirt. It's pretty ghosty with a little green and salt and pepper, and double willow blades. Continuing on with clear water baits, Accent Spinnerbaits is based out of Indianapolis. I had no idea. I'm a big fan of supporting local business, so I picked up a bunch of their river specials, and I'd heard lots of good things about them. Once I put one in my hand and I started playing with it, I noticed the way that this head causes, and this thin wire causes this blade to shake, causes the whole rig to shake. And I have a feeling that's going to put off a lot of vibration and a lot of thump in the water. That color again is going to be for clear water. It's kind of that blue shad, ghosty, couple strands of muted chartreuse with some salt and pepper. And the gold blade and the silver blade is kind of a signature for the Key West, or for the Key West, I wish. A signature for the Midwest, because you guys have a lot of bluegill and perch up in these waters, and gold blades do a good job of representing that type of forage. Sticking with relatively clear water, here's another Accent spinnerbait. This is in a tandem model, right? And you guys can see we've got that blue shad, salt and pepper, chartreuse with a little bit of brown. But the different blade combination, right? This is a tandem. The last one was a double willow. A lot of people don't realize that spinnerbaits put off vibration in the water, and the bass can feel that on their lateral line. What I'm trying to do is figure out what blade combinations are going to work for me during what season of the year on what waters, right? Because we've got different forage baits. We've got shad, we've got bluegill, we've got perch. Maybe I'm in Michigan and we have alewives. So that's what I really want to do this year, is start to break down blade combinations water clarities, things of that nature. So let's continue. Let's start getting into muddy water, and let's continue on with the Accent River Specials. Here's another one. This is called their Spring Ding. It's got the red kicker blade, and this is an Indiana blade. So it's a little bit of a cross between a Colorado and a Willow. It's really more like of a Colorado, so it's going to have some thump, but it's a little elongated. And this is a 3/4 ounce spinnerbait. Now, a lot of the waters that I fish are ponds. Why am I fishing a 3/4 ounce spinnerbait? Because I can burn it and keep it low. The red kicker blade, I think it's made for muddy water. So this is something that I'm primarily going to be throwing in some muddy waters or some stained waters. Moving on, we got a Booyah Spinnerbait. I think it came in one of my Monster Bass boxes. It's got an Indiana blade and a silver Colorado blade. I think it's around 3/8 of an ounce. So it's going to work really, really well for pond fishing. And again, looks like, you know, that type of color pattern is probably going to be a stained to muddy water type situation. Strike King, Strike King, Strike King. I think, again, a Monster Bass box. This is their Bleeding Shad series. Tandem blade combination, chartreuse and white with a little bit of that red accent. I think that's something that's going to work really, really well here in the spring. Once the waters get muddy, she's going to get a little bit of action. Oh, I forgot one last accent, and this is something that's very, very interesting. This is your turtle blade. And it's kind of, again, it's a cross between a Colorado and a Willow. It's a hammer design, but I think it's a little bit more like a Willow. So you can probably fish it a little bit faster. This is a 3/8 ounce version, and it's got a Colorado blade here. So again, totally different vibration and sound and feeling to that lateral line in the water. Really looking forward to seeing when that gets bit. And last but not least, kind of some specialty blades. A buddy of mine brought me over a tackle box that he found at a yard sale, and there were these spinnerbaits in there. Now, these aren't the skirts that were on there because these spinnerbaits are probably 10 years old or more, and the skirts were garbage, but I've heard really good things about fishing painted blades in muddy water, but I don't know anything about it, like nada, zip, zero, zilch. So I'm hoping that you guys have some experience in fishing some painted blades in muddy water. If so, please drop me some comments down below and let me know where and when I should really throw these. That's it. That's all we got for bladed baits here today. Thanks for watching the New Tackle Tuesday. Let me know what your guys' favorite spinnerbaits are. When do you throw them? What kind of trailers do you like to put on them? What's the biggest bass you've caught on a spinnerbait? Let's start talking about it below. But I appreciate each and every one of you. You guys are going to see some great on-the-water action this week. Stay tuned. Peace out. Tight lines. God bless.